Hey, geographers, here we're going, continuing. We are now in the second half of our last unit. We're getting there. And this section is on trade and the world economy. Now, many times this year, I've been able to show you news stories that were relevant to things we're learning about. Of all these sections, I think this is the section where we could not find a time where the news is more relevant to what we're learning about. So I'm going to share some news articles that are literally from today, which is April 9th, 2005, and a few different sources, such as the BBC, which, even though it is British news, it does a much better job than most of our news at showing more of an international perspective. Remember, they had a lot of colonies, so their economies are still very related to them. But this is from earlier this evening, about Trump pausing some of the tariffs that were threatened earlier this week, which caused the stocks to go way down. And now that pause has created a bit of a rebound, as you see there. And there's some other things related, why U.S. markets skyrocketed, even that poor Dominican Republic roof collapse. But, right, this is related to what we're learning about trade and the global economy. All right. So this is like the Barney principle, right? We're all, the Barney principle is not going to be in the AP exam. Don't write that in an FRQ. All right. But we're very interdependent, right? Just like we learned earlier that, core countries depend on periphery countries and vice versa. It's hard to take any one country out of this interconnected web. The idea that you need things from one country and they need things from you. It's less likely than it was years ago, where one just relies on another and there's no reliance back. Right? So this is a long word, complementarity, but just think of the complementing each other. So if you have something that I want, I know we talked about bananas today, right? If you have bananas and I want bananas because you need potassium, but I have, I don't know, what could I have? Oranges. I bet bananas and oranges grow in similar climates, but whatever. All right. You complement each other. Now, often if it's an agricultural product, it's not going to be a similar climate agricultural product. It might be a service. It might be a technology, right? It doesn't have to be an agricultural product for another agricultural product. So a comparative advantage, that's a term you want to know, is that when one trade partner is better at one thing than another. So maybe we're better at a certain service. Maybe we're better at web design, right? I'm just throwing something out there. Maybe one is better at creating chips for all sorts of technologies, right? Maybe one is better at producing labor for a certain industry, right? Maybe it is a raw material or an agricultural product. But because of this system, everyone can specialize at what they're good at. So if you have the interconnectedness and you believe there's a safety net there, where you're not just relying on what you make in your own country, right? This is a key. Then technology advances because you can each really specialize in what you're good at. So it helps technology and modernization, standard of living, because you can specialize at that thing, right? If you make sprockets, you're going to make the best darn sprockets. All right. There's lots of books. We might even read passages of this as we review. The book was called The World is Flat. There's a famous one, but the world is smaller today, right? If you think when the two worlds first became more permanently interconnected, don't put on music because then they'll but then they'll take it down. Now I lost my train of thought. Anyway, when the New World and Old World first became a permanent interaction, right? It still took weeks, if not months, to cross from one to the other. That's no. It's cute for a second. Right now, you can be on the phone, you can send an email, you can trade with someone on the other side of the globe in mere seconds. It may still take a little bit of time for things to get there, but still not as long as weeks or months, which means consumers have more options, right? You're not just buying meat and vegetables from ones grown in your town or county. You're getting ones from throughout the country, throughout the world, right? The clothes that you wear were probably not made in New Jersey, never mind the United States. Probably China, right? Vietnam, right? So you have more options, and that is called effective demand, right? You have these options, you demand it, the ability's there. You don't need to know this graph. If you were to take an economics class, you may have to know more about effective demand. But for us and we'll just know about this idea. But here's the should be an O there. This is what you see in the news a lot as well. All right, enough of this. Tensions arise when countries think others have an unfair advantage. I'm going to throw your phone. That leads to unbalanced trade or trade deficits, right? So if you think, um, we import more than we export to this country, that's unbalanced trade, right? Or that could be a trade deficit. This is what's very relevant these days. All right, so these are all articles from today. A lot of these moves on the tariffs are because of a focus on a trade deficit. Um, the Chinese, I don't give you the exact numbers. The Chinese to U.S. trade deficit, it's like 500 billion to like 100.5 billion. Like we import more from them than they import from us. A lot of that is just because of what our consumers demand, right? Try to see if your family can spend a week off of Amazon. That's a challenge. I could try. All right. And look, these are those shipping containers that we went over with earlier in this unit. Another one here, right? Trade deficits. Understanding it, right? Trade deficit does not always mean it's a bad thing. It just is a byproduct of an interdependence. And interdependence does more than economic things. Remember, trade interconnectedness also helps prevent things like wars. And not 100% of the time, but it does have a big effect. Right? It's important to know this term neoliberalism. So when we look at this term, neo means new. Now, liberalism, don't think conservative and liberalism like in United States politics. This is not like a Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal type of thing. It's liberalism in the greater political science sense of the world. And neoliberalism favors free market economies and privatization over government control. Let companies and organizations trade with as little barriers as possible, right? So you don't want to have you want to keep taxes on this as low as possible. You don't want a lot of tariffs. You want to reduce the barriers because when you reduce the barriers, it stimulates trade, right? And more products are being extracted, created, shipped, more people are consuming, raises the overall economy, overall standard of living. It's cheaper and easier for things to be treated that should be traded. Let's see who's listening from one place to another. I'm going to check this. Right? Now, there's also supranational organizations. We discussed what that was like in the beginning of the year. And they have the goal of free trade. So a famous one from our part of the world is NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement. So that basically meant the United States, Canada, and Mexico, two of the countries we hear a lot of talk about with these tariffs. In 2020, their NAFTA sort of went out the window, and I'll show you what it is called next. We have the EU, the European Union. Oh, please, if when I look at your notes, I see NAFTA. I want to see what it stands for. I'll be checking these things. All right. Here, as you see, also a story from just like 2 hours, not even 2 hours ago. But the European Union approving retaliatory tariffs. You're going to raise a tariff on us, we'll raise a tariff on you. So the EU began as like a free trade, so countries within Europe trading within each other. It has since expanded. Open borders, common currency, things like that. Almost every region of the world has an FTA, has a free trade agreement. When we talk about the one on our continent now, we talk about the USMCA. So, is it a coincidence that our country is first, or is it just phonetically more or aesthetically more pleasing? USMCA, United States Mexican Canadian Agreement. All right. And what the president has said, well, if goods or products from these countries meet the USMCA, I'm sorry, compliance standards, they won't have that tariff. Oh, is that where we're ending it? That's where we're ending it. So, little reminder: um, the this test was made years like already before this stuff happened in the world. Um, when the AP College Board made the video for this section, right? This was already a couple years ago, where they saw, there was already some tensions between China and the United States with trade, but not to like what we see going on the past few weeks. So there will not be a question relevant to what is going on right now. But this should help you understand it. This should make you, when you have a conversation with someone, be able to actually know what you're talking about and use relevant explanations, and not just have a bias from one side or the other. And also, this might still be an example that you can use in your FRQ. Just because it's too new to be asked about doesn't mean it's too new that you can't use it as an example when the FRQ asks for examples. All right, that's important. See ya.